Our deep diver is ready for another deep dive.
Always.
Okay, so today we're taking on Aristotle's Metaphysics, the
Ooh.
law of one. Ancient Greece meets cosmic consciousness.
You really outdid yourself with this pairing.
Well, I like to keep things interesting.
Right. It's certainly a fascinating juxtaposition.
So before we get too far, let's set the stage a little. Aristotle's Metaphysics is all about understanding the foundations of knowledge. He calls these first principles and causes.
Yeah, he was really trying to get to the bottom of things like what is the nature of reality? How do we know what we know?
Exactly. Big questions, right?
The biggest.
And what I find so cool is that he starts his whole exploration with this idea of wonder.
Hmm.
Like he believed that early philosophers were driven by this sense of awe and astonishment at the world. You know, like when you see something that just blows your mind and you have to figure out how it works.
Yeah, that childlike curiosity. I think we all have that to some degree.
Right. So Aristotle takes that curiosity and he develops this framework for understanding how things come into being. And that's where his famous four causes come in. Have you heard of these?
Of course. Material, formal, efficient, and final. Classic Aristotle.
Classic. But they can be a little tricky to wrap your head around. Can you break them down for us?
Sure. Let's take an example. Imagine you're building a house.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
All right, so the material cause is pretty straightforward. It's the stuff the house is made of, the wood, the bricks, the concrete.
Got it. The actual physical materials.
Right. Now, the formal cause is the blueprint, the design that gives the house its shape, its structure. It's the idea of the house before it becomes a physical reality.
Okay, so material is what it's made of, and formal is like the concept or the plan.
Exactly. Now, the efficient cause is the force that brings the house into being, the builders, the tools, the energy they exert.
Ah, so it's not enough to have the materials and the plan. You need the action, the doing, to actually make it happen.
Precisely. And then we come to the final cause.
This is where it gets interesting. Right.
So the final cause is the reason why the house exists in the first place. In this case, it might be to provide shelter, a home for a family.
Okay, that makes total sense. So we've got what it's made of, the plan, the building process, and the purpose. But what about things that don't have such a clear purpose? Like what's the final cause of a rock?
That's a great question, and one that gets to the heart of Aristotle's philosophy. He believed that everything, even a seemingly insignificant rock, has a purpose or role to play in the universe.
So it's like everything has meaning even if we don't always see it.
Exactly. And for Aristotle, understanding that purpose, that final cause, was essential to living a good and fulfilling life.
That's deep. Okay, so we've got Aristotle searching for truth through reason and logic. Now let's jump to the law of one. This one comes from a completely different perspective.
Oh, yeah.
Channeled messages from a being called Ra.
A being. What kind of being are we talking about here?
Well, Ra describes itself as a social memory complex.
Oh, what?
Yeah, it's kind of a mind-blowing concept. Basically a collective consciousness from a higher density or plane of existence.
Okay, so we're not talking about a physical being in the traditional sense.
Not exactly. Think of it more like a unified consciousness, a group mind, if you will.
All right, I'm trying to keep up. And what does this Ra have to say?
Well, one of the key messages is that Earth is undergoing a transition into a new density, a shift in consciousness.
Hold on, densities. Are we talking about different dimensions here?
Think of it more like levels of awareness or spiritual evolution, like a video game with different levels, each offering new challenges and opportunities for growth.
Interesting. So Earth is leveling up.
That's what Ross says. And this new density is all about love and understanding.
Sounds pretty good.
Right. But it's not like we just wake up one day in a utopia. It's a gradual process, both individual and collective. Ra emphasizes that our thoughts, actions, and choices all play a role in this shift.
So we're co-creating the future.
Exactly. But wait, what about the people who aren't exactly embracing Les Light? What happens to them during this transition?
Well, Ra explains that those who choose a path of service to self, a path that prioritizes personal gain over the well-being of others, may find themselves drawn to different experiences that align with their vibrational frequency.
Okay, so it's not about judgment or punishment, but about natural attraction.
Right, like attracts like. If you're vibrating at a certain frequency, you're going to resonate with things that are vibrating at a similar frequency.
So to make it to this higher level, this new density, we need to raise our vibration shift towards love and compassion.
Exactly. And that's not about denying the negative or pretending everything is perfect. It's about facing our shadows with honesty and understanding, choosing love and unity even in the face of challenges.
That's a powerful message. And you know what's really interesting? There's this parallel between Aristotle's concept of the prime mover and Ra's logos.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, both concepts point to this source of creation, this fundamental force behind the universe.
So Aristotle's prime mover is the ultimate cause of all motion and change, and Ra's logos is the creator, the source of all that is.
Could they be talking about the same thing? A universal force that drives creation and evolution?
It's definitely a fascinating connection, and one that we'll have to explore further as we go deeper into these sources.
I'm already blown away. We're just getting started.
Me too. This is going to be an epic deep dive. All right, so we've got Aristotle searching for truth through reason and logic, and then we have Ra offering this cosmic perspective on consciousness and evolution. But you know what's really cool? There are actually some fascinating connections between these two sources.
Oh, yeah? Like what?
Well, for starters, let's talk about energy.
Okay, I'm listening.
So, in the Law of One, Ra describes this system of 7 energy centers within our being. Each one is associated with a specific color and function. It's like having an internal rainbow, each color vibrating with unique energy.
Whoa, an internal rainbow. Okay, you have my attention. But what do these energy centers actually do? Are they like organs?
They're more like subtle energy vortexes. They influence our physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. Ra explains that energy flows upwards through these centers, starting at the base of the spine and moving all the way up to the crown of the head.
So it's like we're constantly channeling energy from the earth up through our bodies and out into the universe. Each center has its own specific job in that process.
Exactly. Let's start at the bottom with the root center. This one's associated with the color red, and it relates to survival instincts, grounding, and connection to the physical world.
Okay, so it's like our foundation, our sense of safety and security.
Exactly. If our basic needs aren't met, if we don't feel safe and secure, it's hard to focus on anything else.
Makes sense. What's next?
Moving upward, we have the sacral center associated with the color orange. This center is all about our emotions, creativity, and relationships with others. It's about the flow and exchange of energy between ourselves and the world around us.
So if this center is blocked or out of balance, we might feel emotionally stuck or have trouble connecting with others?
You got it. And then we come to the solar plexus center associated with yellow. This one is all about willpower, self-esteem, and personal power.
Ooh, I know some people who could use a boost in that area.
Don't we all?
Probably. Okay, what's next?
The heart center. This one's green, and it's all about love, compassion, and healing. It's about connecting with our own hearts and extending that love outwards.
Of course, the heart. The center of it all. What comes after the heart?
The throat center associated with the blue. This one governs communications, self-expression, speaking our truth.
So if someone struggles to find their voice or express themselves clearly, it could be related to a blockage in this center.
That's a great insight. Then we have the brow center, also known as the third eye. This one's indigo, and it's all about intuition, wisdom, and inner vision.
Ooh, getting mystical now. So the third eye is like our psychic center.
You could say that. It's about accessing a deeper level of knowing. And finally, we reach the crown center at the top of the head. This one is violet or white, and it represents spiritual connection, enlightenment, unity with the divine.
Wow, we've gone from survival instincts at the root all the way to spiritual enlightenment at the crown. It's amazing to think we have all these energy centers within us influencing our lives in so many ways. But how do we actually know if these centers are balanced or blocked?
That's where self-awareness comes in. Ray emphasizes paying attention to our thoughts, emotions, and physical sensations. They're all clues to the state of our energy centers. For example, if you're constantly feeling anxious and having digestive issues, it might indicate an imbalance in the solar plexus center.
So it's all about tuning in, paying attention to the signals our bodies are sending us. But what can we actually do to bring these centers back into balance?
There are tons of techniques out there: meditation, yoga, energy healing, spending time in nature. It's about finding what resonates with you and committing to a regular practice.
So cultivating a conscious relationship with our energy system is key to overall well-being.
Absolutely. And you know what's interesting? If we think back to Aristotle's concept of the final cause, the purpose of something, perhaps the purpose of this energy system, is to help us evolve to reach our fullest potential.
Ooh, that's a cool connection. It's like both Aristotle and Ra, despite their vastly different approaches, are pointing us towards the same goal: understanding ourselves and our place in the universe.
Exactly. And that understanding, that journey of self-discovery, is what ultimately fuels our growth and evolution, both individually and collectively.
Okay, so we're talking about evolution. And we can't forget about Earth's transition into fourth density, as Ra describes it. If we want to be part of that shift, we need to raise our vibration right.
Yes. And remember, raising our vibration isn't about denying the negative or pretending everything is perfect. It's about facing our shadows with honesty and compassion, choosing love and understanding even when it's difficult.
So it's not about being all sunshine and rainbows all the time, but about approaching challenging situations with awareness and a commitment to growth.
Exactly. And both Aristotle and Ra emphasize that we're not alone in this journey. We have each other, we have our inner guidance, and we have the universe itself supporting us every step of the way.
It's like we're all in this together, navigating the complexities of life and supporting each other's evolution.
It's a beautiful thing. And if we want to experience that fourth density of love and understanding, we need to start making choices that align with those principles.
Okay, so what does that actually look like in everyday life? Give me some specifics.
Well, it's about making conscious choices that align with love, compassion, and understanding. It's about extending kindness to ourselves and others, even when it's challenging. It's about recognizing our interconnectedness and acting in ways that benefit the whole.
So it's not just about feeling good vibes, but about putting those vibes into action.
Exactly. It's about embodying those principles in every aspect of our lives, our thoughts, our words, and our actions.
Okay, so fourth density is all about love and understanding. But what happens after that? Are there even more densities?
Yes. Ra describes a total of 7 densities, each representing a different level of spiritual evolution and understanding. Fifth density is about wisdom and light, sixth density is about unity and compassion, and seventh density is about returning to the source, the ultimate oneness.
Okay, my mind is officially blown. So we're on this incredible cosmic journey, evolving through these densities, learning and growing along the way. This is so fascinating, but I have to admit, it's a lot to process. How do we even begin to apply all this information to our lives?
That's a great question, and one that we'll explore further in our next segment. Stay tuned.
Wow. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, from Aristotle's metaphysics to Ra's law of one. We've explored some pretty deep concepts. But how do we actually take all of this heading stuff and apply it to our everyday lives?
Right, because it's one thing to talk about energy centers and densities, but how does that actually translate into real world change?
Exactly. We're not all ancient philosophers or channeling cosmic beings. So what can we do with this information?
Well, I think both Aristotle and Ra would agree that self awareness is key.
Okay, so paying attention to our thoughts, our emotions, our actions.
Yeah, Aristotle emphasized the importance of understanding the why behind the things, and Ra talks about aligning our choices with our desired vibrational frequency.
So it's like being mindful and intentional with our choices, not just going through life on autopilot, but actually taking the time to reflect and understand what's driving us.
Exactly. And that kind of self reflection can lead to some pretty profound insights and transformations.
It's like we're constantly evolving, learning.
Right. And both Aristotle and Ra emphasize that we're not alone in this journey. We have each other, we have our own inner guidance, and we have the universe itself supporting us.
Like we're all part of this interconnected web of consciousness, each of us playing our own unique role in the grand scheme of things.
And that's a pretty beautiful thing when you think about it, but it also comes with a certain responsibility.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, if we're all connected, if our thoughts and actions have an impact on the whole, then we have a responsibility to choose wisely, to act with compassion, and to contribute to the well being of all.
So it's not just about our own personal growth, but about how we contribute to the collective good.
Exactly. And that's something that both Aristotle and Ra emphasize in their own ways.
Aristotle talks about virtue and living a life in accordance with reason, and Ra talks about the law of one's service to others.
Right. So even though they come from very different perspectives, they both point to this idea that how we live our lives matters, that our choices have consequences both for ourselves and for the world around us.
That's a powerful message. And it's a lot to think about. But you know what? I think that's the beauty of deep diving into these kinds of sources. It challenges us to expand our minds, to consider new perspectives, and to keep asking those big questions.
I agree. And even if we don't have all the answers, even if we don't always agree with everything we read or hear, the process of inquiry itself is incredibly valuable.
It keeps us curious. It keeps us growing. It keeps us engaged with life. And who knows, maybe along the way, we'll even uncover some of those hidden truths about ourselves and the universe.
That's what it's all about. So keep exploring, keep questioning, keep deep diving, and let us know what you discover along the way.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us on this epic journey, deep divers. Until next time, happy exploring.